I'd like to call this meeting back to order. We were in an in-camera session for contract negotiations at 5 p.m. I'd like to start off with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Wassahobic First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all rise for the playing of O Canada, please?
Singing.
Singing again. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much, everyone. Today is June 26, 2024, and this is our regular council meeting. Approval of the agenda. You all have the agenda in front of you. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? If there's none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Councillor Lauren Cushion, seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee to move the agenda as circulated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 6, if there's any declarations of conflict of interest, please notify me and I'll make sure that your name is recorded in the meeting minutes. Item number 7, approval of the minutes. You have in front of you the 5 different meetings that we've had. What is council's pleasure? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you have the floor.
Yes, I'll move approval of the May 6, 2024 Special Committee of the Whole Grant Session minutes, the May 13, 2024 Special Committee of the Whole, the May 14, 2024 Committee of the Whole, the May 29th Public Hearing minutes, and the May 29th regular council meeting minutes.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 8, under old business, 8.1, dry hydrant briefing. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Danny Jackson is here this evening, Asset Management and Capital Projects Coordinator, to review the work that we did at the direction of Council to take a look at the fire hydrant class of assets, map where they were, try to identify who owned what, which ones were dry hydrants, which ones were on the water utility, and see if we can figure out who's responsible for looking after them. So there's quite a body of work that the GIS technician has spent some time putting together and reviewed with Mr. Jackson. And so we're going to go over that with council tonight, and there are a couple of pieces of key information that Mr. Jackson will leave with you.
All right, Danny, could you please hit your red button? I'll turn your microphone on. As soon as I do believe we're going to have a video display. I was waiting for the other TV to come on. Don't have eyes in the back of my head as much as I wish I did. All right, Danny, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, Madam CAO, Council and guests, as the CAO outlined, this is a briefing note in response to the motion made earlier this year outlining the responsibility for maintaining the dry hydrants in the municipality. So before I start, I'll just go over the legend on the map for clarity. So number 1, the red triangle with the black dot in the center is the local fire department for the fire district. Number 2, the red square is a fire hydrant on the Town of Yarmouth water distribution network. Number 3, the yellow circle is the dry hydrant, which is a standpipe which has a pipe into a water source like a lake or pond or a well or a river that has a screen, normally about 4 to 6 feet in depth, and mostly in rural areas and coastal areas. Number 4 is the blue circle, which is water access, which depicts a lake, a river, a pond, a well, or an ocean. So the interactive map on screen will be operated by Mike, to my right, as the map lags slightly from the lectern and did not perform well on the test run earlier today. So with the data analysis and the review that I received from the GIS Tech, the conclusion is that MODI, the Ministry of District of Yarmouth, does not own any fire hydrants. MODI has no signed agreements, accepting responsibility for repairs and maintenance on any hydrants. Any questions?
Okay.
Councillor Daniel Allen, sorry, Deputy Board Trevor. You left it on, didn't you? Councillor Daniel Allen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the brief presentation. That it's nice to know that what we have. I guess questions. I still have questions around. I know there are some older, like I guess are they? Is it considered a dry hydrant where it goes into a pond of water? Is that what would be considered a dry hydrant?
Yes, through the chair back to Councillor Daniel Allen. Yes, that's considered as a dry hydrant.
So do we have any information on who actually owns the dry hydrants in the communities? Because I know there are some in the communities. I know for sure there's one in Pickney's Point. I know there's one in Arcadia that runs off right next to the garage. I'm assuming that one is owned by the fire department. I know I've had questions. We've had a couple houses that have caught fire and burned in Pickney's Point. And at the time of the fires, they had to send the tankers down. And after the fires, I had calls because I know it's old and I don't even know if it works, but I know there used to be a dry hydrant there. And the question was, whose responsibility is it? Who owns it and whose responsibility? And that's part of the reason that we brought these questions forward. So I'm still, I'm still lacking some information here. I appreciate that we don't own any, but I know there's more than what's on this map, and I'm just wondering where they are and who does own them.
So the map is complete. They're all on the map. There are a number of hydrants that the condition assessment indicated that they were not functioning. And so there's a recommendation that because the municipality is in possession of condition assessments, that, the municipality should probably write to the owner, as identified in our research, and indicate, we've done a condition assessment. It appears that, the hydrant, and we'll give the location of the hydrant, is not operating or properly functioning, and we wanted to bring it to your attention. And that really is the limit of what we would be doing, because the hydrants are part of the fire protection, fire suppression service, and the municipality doesn't operate any of that. We have the 6 volunteer fire departments that levy an area rate in their communities to pay for that, and then the municipality pays the town of Yarmouth for service in the rest of the areas. So I agree, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Allen, that there's a responsibility to take the information we have and do something with it, and that would be our recommendation.
You're on, Councillor Allen.
Okay, thank you. So through you to our Madam CAO. So you're saying the map's up to date, and is it including the ones that are not functioning, this map?
It's my understanding they do, all of them, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a list, Counselor Allen, like, say, for example, in Lake Vaughan, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that are not functioning, and it just so happens that one of them I drove by on the Canaan Road, the top was broken off, and that is listed here that it's not functioning.
I'm just trying to find, I know there are 2 in my district.
there's-
They are old.
Yep. There's one
I
on
haven't
the
looked here.
William Allen Road. It's marked as a water access. And there's one on the corner of Melbourne Road and Highway 3. And that's the one, that's one that was cause of a lot of conversation, particularly during the Pinckney's Point fire.
Nope. There's one in Pinckney's Point. On high. Anyway, it's not listed here. I know it was there, I know it's old, it's very old. I would assume at the time Pinckney's Point had a fire department and probably maintained it at that time, but hasn't had a fire department in,
If you can, it could
Many
be that we
years.
didn't find it when we drove.
Yep.
If there's vegetation around it. If you can let us
Okay.
know exactly where it is, we will definitely update the data set.
okay, all right. Yep, okay, thank you.
Counselor Lauren Cushing.
Yeah, I see the one, I believe, is on the Overton Highway 304. But I don't see the one that's off the Dayton Road. Oh, I wasn't down far enough. I see it now, yeah. Okay. All right then. All right, that answers my question. So what do we, who's responsible for them?
So by and large, the fire departments are responsible. The town of Yarmouth Water Utility has a responsibility for a lot of them.
But
Acadia
even
First Nation is responsible for the hydrants on the reserve.
on the Dayton Road and Highway 304, who's responsible for them?
Do you have that right there on your sheet, Danny?
Mike, do you want to bring that up on the legend, on if you click onto that? The one on Dayton Road.
Right there, yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you scroll down, so the landowner is private. It's a fresh water system. And the water source is a pond. What's on tab 2, Mike? Yeah, it shows the local fire department district, which is Yarmouth Fire.
Yarmouth Fire Department responsible for them? So how do we go about getting them to check them out?
So the agreement we have with the Yarmouth Fire Department includes repairs and maintenance and condition assessments, and we do receive the condition reports and the repairs and maintenance log from them on those hydrants that are in their area.
I don't know if they've ever been checked. Anyway, if you say they're supposed to check them and they've checked them, well, good, but I question it, but. Okay,
Thank you, Counselor. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so I'm assuming this data will be shared, these documents will be shared with the fire departments, and then there'll be some kind of conversation that they'll have, or do they have the data so they can go out and potentially service those? And do we need direction, do we need direction to supply the fire departments with these documents?
A motion would be great, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Warden?
Yeah, I'll move that we supply the documents we're discussing this evening that have been presented to us to all our fire departments, and also make the owners of the hydrants aware of their condition, their individual conditions.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Danny. Okay, moving on to item 8.2, accessibility renovations. And before we went online, I started asking questions. I said, what's this taped on the floor? Some notes and stuff, and then the CEO informed me, well, these are measurements and they're in metric. I said, well, I understand the old imperial system better. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the steering committee working on the renovations to the district's 2 buildings that are required to be brought up to accessibility standards under the Accessibility Act are moving very quickly and will soon be ready to tender the work. We're, 85–90% on the design. And so council had reviewed some floor plans for this room to bring this room to where it needs to be. And we have some renderings that we want to show council to confirm that there are no glaring departures from what you were expecting. What we're showing you complies with the act and complies with the codes, so that bit is looked after. So if we could go to, I'm calling mine slide 1, but I'll go to the one you got there, Mike, just so it's the same. Yeah, he's on slide 4. So slide 4 would be basically looking at the room from where Councillor Allen and Councillor Cushing are sitting. So a couple of big ticket items. The heavy wooden doors that are currently the entrances and the exits, they are too heavy for the openers to have enough energy and power to open them. So they have to come out, and lighter doors have to be put in so that the automatic openers can be inserted there. All of the built furniture will go away, and everything will be on one level footing, so that in terms of mobility, as well as for people who are visually impaired, there are less obstacles or potential obstacles in the way. And the other big change is behind Councillor Cushing and behind Councillor Allen. In room 214A is a mechanical room. That doorway will become a hallway, and there will be an emergency exit installed. There's no emergency exit for this room. So a hallway will be installed, and there will be an exterior exit at the end of the hallway. A wall will be constructed on the left-hand side of the hallway. The venting that contributes to the noise in the room, which is also part of a problem for people with hearing impairments, we are going to redirect that down to the hallway and try to quiet the room down a little bit more. We will have room for a significantly larger gallery, and there will be, you'll see on, if you just want to scroll through the slides, Mike, so that the members of the public can see them as well, there will be wood treatment put on the walls, because when this wood and this upholstery comes out of the room, there could be an echo situation. So by putting some wood on the walls, it will help absorb some sound and make better acoustics. What you don't see on the renderings is the plan for the audiovisual equipment. The 2 monitors that are on the walls now will come down, and larger monitors, 75 inches, will be put up on either end of the room to make it easier for presenters and members of the gallery to see what's on the monitors. These 2 monitors will be repurposed. They'll be put on mobile stands, and they will be used for people who join the meeting virtually. And all of the furniture will be able to be removed from the room, and council and the community can use the room for other purposes than just a formal meeting. Did I miss anything important?
Through the chair to Madam CEO. No, obviously the acoustics are an issue, and we are looking at some delineations to reduce the noise and have some proper adjustable grills for the ventilation. But in a nutshell, yeah, that's roughly about it.
Well, thank you very much for that, Madam CEO. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to staff and CAO for this. A couple of things you answered, the question about the audiovisual, because I didn't see any TVs, and I'm like, whoa, what's going to happen there? So the second question about audiovisual, so currently, when we have someone here, we obviously have Mike in the storage room, audiovisual room over here. Is there going to be something better than that where
Would you
It
like to
can-
speak to the products you're sourcing, Mike?
so that he doesn't have to be in the closet while,
Yeah, no, I'll be in the same place, but there'll be 3 cameras. So the cameras will be controlled by me, so that whoever's speaking will be seen. So there'll be a camera that'll reach all the angles in this room.
okay,
So at any one time, if these people are speaking, there'll be a camera on them. When you guys are speaking, we can have up to, I think, 2 people on the screen at the same time.
so that's unlike what we have now where it's
Just
just
one camera in the whole room.
far view and you can't tell.
I think we'll still have that view,
Right.
but we'll have other views as well.
Okay. Another question I have, if I may, if these furnishings are going to be, and I'm not sure who can address this, but if these furnishings are going to be movable, how do we get power to run this if it can be movable and there's no way, yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Sherry Herbert, we're looking at different ideas to address the power issue with perhaps floor-mounted access points. The furniture itself will daisy chain for power. So once it connects together, it's like a plug-and-play system. But we're looking at different options for less disruptive in the council chambers.
Okay. And the last question I have, in the pictures where it shows the gallery chairs, is there any, in order to comply with fire code, do those chairs need to be interlocked so that they're not movable? Have we thought about that, or is that not a problem with the small number of chairs that we have?
That hasn't been brought up as a problem, as far as I know, as to the fire code.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
But we can double check on that, yep.
Okay. Thanks. Good work.
Actually, Councillor Hurlbert, that's an excellent question, because I remember going to the high school and all the chairs were linked together.
Sit tight.
Mariner Center,
Yeah.
yeah, all of those.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hurlbert. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our CAO or Danny. Once this is done, will people be able to, the counselors be able to attend meetings via Zoom should it be necessary?
Yep, I think the products that Mike is sourcing will accommodate that virtual attendance piece and be compliant with the Municipal Government Act.
Perfect. Thank you.
I like the idea of something that we've heard over this term anyway. And I'm going to mention this because today we don't have a lot of spectators in the audience, but there's been times where we were over capacity. So that will also take care of that. Unfortunately, over the years, there's been times where there's been not many people watching, and I encourage anyone who can get to come out to the building, that they come out and see the meeting in person. So the capacity will be raised from 18 to, what is it, 30?
Somewhere around 30, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around 30. And I also like the fact that it's a multi-purpose room. Rather than just having one specific use, I'm a big believer in being able to use that for anything, whether it be community meetings, just planning meetings, meetings of different organizations. We will have more options available to them. And I do believe this is one of the, if not the largest room in the building.
It is, yep.
So that will mean that we'll have a much better capacity in here for larger meetings. So is there any more questions of council? Is there any decision from council that needs to be made? This is just an update, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you very much, Danny, and
Thank you.
thanks, Mike. Moving on, item number 9, new business, recommendations from the Committee of the Whole, 9.1.1, draft 2024-2025 business plan. You have that recommendation from Committee of the Whole. What is council's pleasure? Deputy Warden.
I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth accept the, accept, or approve the 2024-25 business plan is circulated.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 9.1.2, letter to the Minister Fraser. Do you have that recommendation from the Committee of the Whole? What is council's pleasure? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it took me a couple of minutes to open this up. I'd like to make a motion at the municipality of the District of Yarmouth write to Minister Sean Fraser highlighting the municipality's efforts in developing a housing strategy, how it is positioned in alignment with his recent comments at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meeting, and offer an invitation for a conversation regarding any potential pilot projects aimed at supporting housing initiatives and addressing future community needs.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Discussion on that. Councillor Durkee, you still have the floor.
No discussion.
No discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. If anyone's watching online and they notice that I'm flipping through paper, they say sometimes computers are very fast. Well, I find paper's quicker than the computers sometimes when it comes to opening up attachments, so. And I'm the only one here other than the CEO. I think maybe the recording secretary may have a paper version. Just makes my life a heck of a lot easier. All right, with that little bit of fill in, item 9.1.3, War Veterans Poster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at Committee of the Whole, Council had a great interest in seeing what we could do to support getting the posters as presented out into the community, and they asked me to go away and have a look at it and come back with a recommendation. So Council has a number of community halls that they work with throughout the municipality. There are seven of them. Bayshore Community Club, Pembroke, Brooklyn Hall, Forest Glen Community Center, Greenville Community Center, Melbourne Community Center, South Ohio Community Center, and Brazil Lake. In addition, there are fire departments, which are community meeting places. We have 7 of those. And then we own 2 buildings. So altogether, that is 16 places where I would recommend council allot up to $200 for those groups. If they want to put a poster in there, the municipality would sponsor it. So it would be $3,200 if the large poster was placed in all the buildings, and you have a $10,000 grant contingency, and so I'd recommend that the $3,200 come from there.
Councillor Allen?
Well, in the words of Sherry Hobart, that she got out, so moved.
Moved by Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder for discussion purposes?
or Nick-
Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
We're stealing Nick's line, but yes, I think, well,
Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Daniel Allen.
just want to say thank you again to staff. I think this is a great idea. I thought that the presentation we got at Committee of the Whole on these posters was great. And yeah, I think this is a good thing. Nobody ever wants to forget, so yeah, this is, I'm glad we're doing this.
Councillor Sherry, sorry. Yes, you are on. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo Councillor Allen's sentiments. The presentation that was given to us at our council, or our committee of the whole was, very moving and heartfelt. My grandfather was a World War II vet. He was one of the lucky ones, and he was able to come home. So I think that anything that we can do as a municipality to honor those who weren't able, who didn't make it home, I think it's a great gesture on our part. A small amount for us to pay for service of many who paid greatly. Thanks.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree, it's not about the initial investment, it's about the investment in remembering, and by placing these in multiple buildings in our municipality, we're going the extra mile to make sure that we don't forget. So thank you to the staff for pulling that information together.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, too, agree with my fellow councillors, and I want to say that with what's happening in the world today, we are in a bit of a mess, and I think that young people in particular have no clue or do not understand why people fought in the war. World War I and World War II, and anything we can do to educate younger people about what has happened in the past and why these wars occurred and what Canadians, our fellow members of our community have done for us is extremely important. Thank you.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
I'll just quickly say the presentation was fantastic, and certainly those posters, I think, will spur people to have those conversations, and that's really important because there are all those people, as Councillor Hurlbert had indicated, that didn't in fact come home. They're buried overseas, in Korea or in Europe, all over Europe. There are all of those war cemeteries. So it's a sad thing, but also a thing of it's great in the sense that they eventually prevailed, right? So that's something certainly to remember them for. So excellent project, and thank the people, certainly the folks that came and presented, and for their efforts in moving this forward.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 9.2. 9.2.1, TRIPA rezoning request. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, the latest meeting of the PAC from Tuesday, June 19th, 2024, there was certainly a discussion of the TRIPA request, and there was a unanimous motion, and I'd recommend, or I'll move, that the municipality of District of Yarmouth accept the PAC recommendation is circulated, and it reads to recommend that after careful review of the request by TRIPA for the council rezone, the following PIDs, and I won't read them all out, they're there in print, to sensitive environment under 219 of the Municipal Government Act, council retain the current zoning of said PIDs.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. I need some clarification. So you stated here, Deputy Warden, that it says that we retain the current zoning of said PIDs. So we are not changing them to sensitive environment, correct? I just wanted to be crystal clear on this, because if that meant that we were turning this to a sensitive environment, the first question out of my mouth would be, out of these 14 PIDs, were all the landowners contacted, and did they agree to it? But it's to keep it as they are currently zoned, whether it's resource development, resource commercial, whatever it may be.
Right, correct. The wording.
Turn on your mic, please.
And I can see how the motion's worded. It in the beginning, it does kind of lead you to believe that the PAC may be looking at doing that, but certainly it's clear
Yeah.
overall that the.
I just wanted to
retain the
be, I
current
wanted to
zone.
be crystal clear on how I was voting on this, because it
Abs-
meant a yay or an A for
Absolutely.
me. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Deputy Warden. Item 9.2.2, Commercial Development District Improvement Bylaw Review and Recommendation.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, just while the chair of the PAC is pulling up the documentation. So in council's package is a recommended amendment to Section 3 of the Commercial Development District Improvement Bylaw. And if council is agreeable this evening to that amendment, the amendment is in the actual bylaw in the package, and first reading could be approved this evening.
Deputy Warden.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, the recommendation coming out of PAC Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. It's the Commercial Development District Improvement Bylaw, and again, these are some suggested edits. I'll move that they be adopted or move to first reading is circulated.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion.
Can I just speak on it, Mr.
Discussion,
Chair?
Madam CEO? You have any more
Sure,
to
so
add?
I'll just speak on the motion on the floor. The Commercial Development District Improvement Bylaw is a tool authorized through the Municipal Government Act whereby council can grant rebates on taxes for commercial properties where an investment of $100,000 or more is made, and the rebate is a declining balance. So in the first year, the rebate is the highest, and every year the rebate decreases until it's zero. The idea behind this is to improve the commercial assessment in municipalities, easing the burden on the residential tax owner, but helping business owners manage cash flow when they make significant investments in their properties. The municipality currently has 3 projects under this program and 1 in the hopper. So it's been successful to date. There's significant investments that have been made in the municipality because of the program.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Point of clarification, so this is going to be advertised, Madam CEO? Thank you. Item 9.3, amendments to the procurement and purchasing policy P-088-14.
So, Mr. Chair, this had been recommended by the April Committee of the Whole, and the 7-day notice for the policy amendment was just circulated to council recently. So the amendments bring into play the notion of social procurement. I can go through them if council would like me to refresh their memory. So on page 2, we're cleaning up the definition of a local business. We're recommending that we bring in the notion on page 2, under 3.1.10, the notion of a social enterprise, which is a not-for-profit organization or registered charity who operate revenue-generating related businesses, and includes organizations that operate as for-profit businesses with a social goal. We're also recommending to council that we increase the threshold by which a local vendor can be chosen for a slightly higher price in council's procurement. We're updating the names of some associations that are referenced in the policy. We're also recommending that we remove the specific references to certain trade agreements because those names and those sections change over time, and it's difficult to keep up with those changes and amend the policy. And so we're just recommending that the language suggests that council in its procurement activities will oblige the provincial and the federal agreements. And I think those are the main changes. increasing on page 12, increasing that threshold on local preference from 5% to 10%, or from $5,000 to $10,000, which will give more flexibility to purchase from local vendors. And that is, in essence, the changes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, council's heard the changes. What is council's pleasure? Deputy Warden.
Yeah, I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth adopt the changes as circulated, or the amendments as circulated to the procurement purchasing policy P-088-14.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 4, second reading of Municipal Streets, Sidewalks, and Trails Bylaw, M-089-24. Deputy Warden.
Right, I'll move that the municipality of District of Yarmouth adopt after second reading, of course, the municipal streets, sidewalks and trails bylaw, M-089-24, is circulated.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Discussion on the motion on the floor. There's lots of omissions of sidewalk and trail, that's for sure. And then there was omission of penalties. That's omitted. And item 911, any person that contravenes, that's omitted. Lots of omissions, that's for sure. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10, correspondence for action. Item 10.1.1, 12 months notice letter to the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I recommended that this be in council's package for action, Mr. Chair. The intention of the 1 year's notice letter from the provincial government to the Federation of Nova Scotia Municipalities is to provide council with specific information on cost increases to programs and services that council is required to provide. And while I'm sure everybody appreciates the detail that is in this letter, there continues to be information in the letter about predictions on cost increases without the financial information included. And so my recommendation is that council take one of two courses of action. Write to the president of the NSFM and highlight your concern with the lack of clarity and specificity, or write directly to Minister Lohr. And again, thanking for the information, and it's always good to know, that change is coming, but it's critical to know at what level and what cost that change is coming at.
What is council pleasure? Me personally, I'd like to see a letter to both. What is council pleasure to do? Deputy Warden.
I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth write the NSFM and copy the minister, Minister Lohr, on the letter, indicating that we'd like to see additional. While we appreciate the notice, and that's important, and we're thankful for that. But, moving forward, we'd appreciate additional clarity and specificity with regard to the contents of the letter.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lorne Cushing. Discussion? I will say this much, is the more information is key. Sometimes they make changes, and the more information we have on how it affects us financially, I want to know about. That's all I'll say about that. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.1.2, Eel Exports Incorporated, moving forward. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this letter comes from a property owner who's had a development agreement in place with council for a number of years to construct a fully recirculating aquaculture facility in the Nova West Regional Business Park. And just as the business owner is ready to break ground, the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans canceled the Elver fishery this spring. And the Elvers are the raw material that this business owner needs to operate his facility. So his letter to council is requesting some support to write to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans and asking her and her department to provide for a sustainable Elver fishery in support of the aquaculture industry.
Deputy Warden?
So Mr. Lee was in here and gave a presentation about his business proposal. He's purchased a lot in the business park to undertake this business, and you know, it would be a pretty significant. I think it would be a pretty significant benefit to our municipality to have that move forward. So given that, I'd move that the municipality of Yarmouth write the Minister of Fisheries for Nova Scotia, and also our federal fisheries minister to indicate that we'd like to see a resolution to the Elver fishery in order to allow the aquaculture industry to proceed, and in particular this project.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.1.3, waste check brush cutting concerns. We all have a letter here from Waste Check from the Chair, Linda Gregory. What is council's wishes? Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I was at the AGM meeting, just sitting in for Waste Check when they were discussing this, and I'd mentioned that we've had similar concerns from local residents, and that it was in their own policy and procedure manual that, in my opinion, some of the things that were being left behind were not even up to their own standards. So I do agree. I guess through you to through the chair to Madam CAO, is there anything other than bringing it up next time we sit down with the OT that we need to do, or is that really the only direction that we need to provide at this time?
So you could approach it that way for sure. I think from Waste Check's perspective, their catchment area is a large geographical area, and when the brush cutting is not done to standard, it's very difficult for solid waste to be collected properly, and it's very difficult to have good enforcement on litter abatement and to get people to stop littering. So I think that, you know, that's where Waste Check's interest in the issue comes from. It also creates a safer solid waste collection framework if the brush cutting is kept up to speed for the contractors who are out there on the roads grabbing the solid waste from the sides of the roads. So for those reasons, I do think it is probably an item that is worth a letter to the office.
Yep, I agree, and you know how I feel about litter, so I'll make the motion that we write the letter.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.2, we have here for information, a response from the Prime Minister's office, re the federal taxation policies. Item 11, reports. The CEO's report. You all have that in your package. Comments, questions, concerns? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
As always, this is a good place for the viewing public to see what we have been doing in the last month, and thank you to the CAO for this report. I could talk about a lot of things, but for me, most of interest is the appendices attachment on the cell phone through not develop Nova Scotia. Build Nova Scotia now. Maybe you can just give us an overview of what that entailed and where we think we're going with that?
Sure. So when Build Nova Scotia was created, their mandate included finishing the rural internet project, but also taking on the cell service problem in Nova Scotia. And so a gap study was commissioned. Our regional enterprise network participated and provided some data, and then there was other data collection that was undertaken. And so Build Nova Scotia has a really good handle on how poor the cell service is in Nova Scotia and where it is poor and on what part of the spectrum. So Build Nova Scotia is to a place now where they have developed their metrics, their measures on addressing the issue. So in the slide deck that's included in my report are the program metrics. So it's a $47.3 million investment that the province is going to make in trying to solve the problem. It'll be a two-phased approach. The first phase, procurement, has been out to market and closed, and Build Nova Scotia is negotiating with the contractor now to do that work. $3.3 million is being invested in trunk mobile radios, which is focused specifically on emergency management response and a lack of coverage. And so the goals will be 99% coverage for basic voice call across Nova Scotia. So that's again tied to civic addresses. 95% coverage for standard definition service and 85% coverage for high definition service. So in time, we are going to see a marked improvement in cell service across Nova Scotia. And I think the great thing for municipal councils is this important piece of community infrastructure, as far as we understand right now, is not going to require municipal contribution. The rural internet projects required a municipal contribution, and we understand that Build Nova Scotia is going to do this work with their $47.3 million. So what we can do on the municipal level is when calls are put out for data, when residents are asked to participate in surveys, one of the things that Build Nova Scotia really wants to know is if a person is on a 100 series highway or a trunk highway or a feeder highway and the call drops, note where you are, and you can even call the municipal office and give us that information, and we'll make sure it gets to the right people. They really need that level of detail to really fix the problem. So it's going to take time. It's not going to happen quickly. What I understand is work in phase 1 will be able to overlap with phase 2. So a portion of completeness under phase 1 will be done, but they'll be starting phase 2. So it's years, it will be years in the making, but it's underway.
Thank you. So my first question was going to be, is this going to cost us anything? You've answered that. The second question was, how long do you think it's going to take? Many years. And I think I had seen on social media, maybe it was the Barrington municipality had put out a survey kind of just asking, their residents to do exactly what you just said. If your call drops here, where is it? And I think that all of us could probably do that daily. So when we are asked to step up and, provide some more data, we'll be here to assist. But thank you very much for that.
I hated to laugh during your explanation, Madam CEO, about drop calls on and where they are, whether it's 100 series highways or secondary roads or anything like that. I'm sorry. This is one issue that we know has been bad and it's only gotten worse over the years. There's no two ways about it. I think it's been studied to death. I certainly will push any information I can to make it easier for them. This basically boils down to cell service around Southwest Nova and even on the main 100 series highways is not very good, to be very polite. It's a disaster. I remember way back in the day when we first had those bag phones. At least you could use those out in the middle of nowhere. As the technology has quote-unquote improved, it's gotten worse. Yeah, it's faster when it does work. Worser. I'll stop because I'll go ranting on about this subject all night long. I really wish the timeline would be accelerated because this is something that we've been howling about. It's also becoming a real issue for first responders. People being able to make 911 calls, whether it's for fire, emergency medical, or anything like that. It's real important. It's really important that that works. We're relying on old technology, TMR radios out in the country, and even some places they don't work out in the Kemp area, so. We'll see where it goes. Any more questions for Madam CEO on her report? Deputy Warden?
Just a few comments. The one-time tax rebates there, and my understanding is that people have made aware of that, and there's quite a bit of interest in the rebate, so that will hopefully provide, well, not hopefully, it will provide a number of people with some tax relief, and people really been asking for that. So I think that's, I think we really, as a council, really responded to the community's ask to you know, give folks a little bit of a break this year, given the unprecedented, you know, rate of inflation. We've had several years of really high inflation, and that's obviously compounded year over year. So that's a big problem for folks. The business plans there. Also, we've got staff's working on a number of requests for proposals, which is fantastic. It's in there. But what I will say generally is, I did have somebody make a comment to me outside the gallery last time round. They said, "Do your job," and I thought to myself, that's interesting. And you know, I thought about that a little bit, and that it's an interesting question. So I thought about it, and I certainly thought about it in terms of the CEO's document. So if anybody wants to know, to Councillor Hurlbert's point, what we're doing, whether you know, whether they believe it's the right direction or not the right direction, the CEO's report's a good place to go, because we do govern by motion, and the motions are there, what we're doing. So really, whether somebody's pleased or not, that's everybody's individual right to hold those opinions. But for the broader population, I would, you know, I think it's a good idea to review those docs and see just what we're up to, because, you know, that input is helpful always. Comments are helpful. Sometimes it causes you to think more deeply about something, and that comment did, in a positive way, caused me to think about, well, what is our job? Well, our job certainly is to provide direction, strategic and otherwise, to the municipality through staff. They do the hard work on the ground, and we listen to the residents to the extent that we can. We survey, we're hearing people. So I think all of that sort of does point to this council having been very effective in terms of responding to what the public wants. Additional voice. We've got the 15 minutes at the end of each council meeting, which I think is an improvement. People wanted additional input, so there is that certainly ability to have 3 minutes, 5 people, and that's something that isn't done around lots of council tables. So that's, I think, really we've been very progressive in that way. So, any event, I'd encourage everybody to really pour through that, and if there are suggestions that they have, certainly they can contact us, reach out to the warden, the deputy, any of the councillors, or certainly can schedule a presentation and/or, make use of those 15 minutes at the end of each council meeting to comment on some things we're doing and the direction we're moving, because that's always helpful. Having those comments from the public, it rights the ship, I think, because we certainly want the input to better steer the ship, so to speak. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Any more comments about the CAO's report? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the report as presented. Moved by Councillor Allen. Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Next report is my report, and there's something in there that I want to point out, and people may have heard it at the beginning of the meeting, and it's in regards to Acadia First Nation land acknowledgement. As a lot of you may remember, that when I first started off every meeting, I used to start it off, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Acadia First Nation. Well, Acadia First Nation has changed. What you may have heard instead of Acadia First Nation, and I hope I pronounce this properly, Wasohoba. Wasohoba is a new word that the Acadia First Nation, or is what the new name of the First Nation is. And what that word means is bright water. We had a presentation by Melanie Robertson Purdy from Acadia First Nations come here and gave a presentation to council members and staff. Did she do that twice, Madam CEO, or just the once? She just did that the once. It was very interesting, and we also learned some greetings in their native language, which I regret to inform you that I cannot remember, but I really appreciate the Acadia First Nations, and especially Melanie, for taking the time out of her busy schedule to help educate all of us on the traditional people of the area. I'd like to thank them for that. Something else that I didn't put in there was Canada Day, July the 1st. And I got an email here from Frank earlier today. Opening ceremonies are going to be held at the Kilns Wharf at 11:30 a.m. And also that there's going to be cake and celebrations and games. And also out at the Cape Verschoux, I believe at 12 o'clock, there's going to be things going on out there. 9 o'clock, the Hope is going to be having a pancake breakfast for the children of South Yarmouth Playground. At 11, Cape Verschoux activities and cake was going to be starting at 12. Activities and music all day on the Kilns Wharf, so if you're out and about in the area, please stop by. And also, weather permitting, we know that the weather's changeable in the 1st of July around here. There will be fireworks at dusk. So I just wanted to add that to my report. And one more thing that I should mention was the CANSO. Thank councilors that were there. It was very moving to see the plane that Lieutenant James McRae originally flew. We learned a lot of history about that as well. That plane was originally built in Quebec in 1943, and it was flown here, and James was the first pilot of that around here. So it was very interesting, heart-moving. It was great to see all the veterans out there, and the weather held off. So that's my report. Other reports, legal entities. You have some written reports in there. Is there any verbal reports for legal entities? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Sorry, folks, but this is going to take a little bit of time. With the deputy warden commenting about what we do, doing our job, part of our job, which I think a lot of people do not realize, is that we are on many, many committees, and we sit and go to many meetings just outside of the 2 meetings for council. So I have been to many meetings in the past couple weeks, so I will try to make this as brief as possible. We had a Western Counties Regional Library, AGM, and as we mentioned earlier, funding is being reviewed for that. It's been tight, and I have to commend our staff in the Western Counties Regional Library. They do an amazing job with their budget and their planning, and I'm happy to say that the union accepted negotiations, which apparently went very well, and they're moving forward. They're always starting new programs there and keeping up with present-day times. Okay, Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association. I also attended an AGM. And what we noted this year was we don't have as many activities, events happening, although the Congrès is huge, and that's happening in August, and we've had a big impact or high involvement in that. So some of the funding that comes from the province, for example, on joint projects, we aren't getting this year because there aren't the joint project. What I will say is that our team at the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores are fantastic at leveraging other money to run programs here, and their data collection is incredible, and they've been providing a lot of feedback to the group that is reviewing the ferry service. And I note that there was a meeting yesterday that was held with the councils with regards to continuing with the ferry service, and I am hoping that's positive. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I was at the AGM for the Wren, so I'll be speaking to them independently. And the other legal entity is the Western Regional Economic Network Liaison and Oversight Committee. The actual Wren had their AGM yesterday, and I have this beautiful booklet that was produced on their annual report. And for those who don't know, I just want to go over a few quick things about things that they are working on. In addition to with Build Nova Scotia to the cell service, they are continuously working with businesses across the region. They do communication and engagement. They have a Business Now program where they have 111 clients, so that's working with businesses. They prepare businesses for transition, which means that if someone is selling or wants to get out of their business, it's succession planning, and they help with that. They promote regional target investment in growth sectors. They are always helping companies, 8 in particular this past year, with continuous improvement, and that often happens with different sizes of organization. They're involved in increasing investment in private sector and in public sectors. They are involved in innovation. They work with many partners. They're also involved with us on energy retrofitting, and we had a presentation on that. They're looking at some placemaking activities, and a large part of what they do is planning regionally for immigration and population growth. There were 40 connectors in the connector business, 50 new connectees, 4 networking events were hosted, and 14 known jobs were found by connectees. They also host the newcomers function at the fire hall, and that was apparently wonderfully received, and a huge number of people attended that. So we have a lot of new people in the area. So our Wren is a model for the rest of the province and continues to be supported by all of this region. And if anybody wants to look at this lovely booklet, I'm happy to share with you. Next.
Thank you very much, and I did see you out. I remember coming in here and the YASTA AGM was going on, and sorry, I was out running doing something else, so I couldn't stay. But yeah, there's a lot going on, that's for sure. Any more verbal reports? Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just Mariner Center Expansion Board, I hear Class A what's the word? Estimates are in. And expect a meeting in the next week or two to move to tender. So there is some confusion. People think we've already broke ground on that. The work being done at Mariner Center right now is the Jumpstart or multi-sport court. And that's due to be completed by the end of summer, but hopefully we'll break ground by the end of the year for the Mariner Center expansion with the pool and walking track and weight room. So that's going to be a huge thing for our council and our region. So that's exciting. Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission, we continue to move the port towards a private board to see if they can obtain some more funding on their own to do some of the major renovations that need to be done to the wharf and other facilities there. And that's going well, slow but well. And the work that was done with the clinics in their partnership with Nova Scotia Health is all but complete, and really one of the first times that we've seen a profit turned when it comes to our investment. So we have clinics. I think Nova Scotia Health has the walk-in clinics on Wednesday night downtown, something that we didn't have before, and we're seeing more clients, so that's what matters. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I need a motion to extend, we've reached our time limit on the regular council of 2 hours. We started at 5, it's now 7. I need a motion to extend the meeting hours. Moved by Councillor Nick Hilton. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Patty Durkee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 4, advisory committees. Any verbal reports for those? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Monday evening of this week, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee met. We had great discussion. We had Troy Lawrence, who is with the African Nova Scotia Affairs Office. He was in attendance to give us some insight on connecting with people from the African Nova Scotia areas and how we can just kind of engage people. We know that we have to have a plan in place, and they tell us that's April 1, 2025, and we were told that there is possibly some monies available that will be available, but we staff didn't have details on how much or how we could use that funding to move forward our plan. And we were sent away with some homework to review the equity and anti-racism primer for municipalities and villages, and there's also some guidance on how to actually come up with that plan. So similar, I compare it to somewhat to the way we started the Accessibility Advisory Committee. So the province says this is what you need to do. They come up with the guidelines. We along with our citizen reps and with the approval of council. So the very same thing will be happening with the Office of Equity and Anti-Racism. So we'll have to come up with something there. But Mr. Lawrence was great in providing us some valuable feedback on how we can get feedback from communities. And so I think we do have a couple of motions that we put forward, so they'll be coming to council in the July meeting to consider a couple of things from the committee. But good work is being done, hard work. It's not, you know, it's not easy, but it's work that definitely needs to be done.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I attended Community Navigator Oversight Committee, and we also had our Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee meeting. And just to let you know, which is unbelievable, when we first started this 5 years ago, if we had 4 site visits from doctors, that was a lot. And just to let you know, we've had 14 doctors in the last 6 months that have started in Yarmouth. So there's been a drastic improvement, particularly in the specialist area, and I will tell you that our OBGYN has actually got a full complement of 4 doctors now. We hardly had any. So that is huge for us, that and the health department actually approved an additional position, so that's how we ended up with 4 as opposed to 3. The one difficult area is family medicine, because doctors today don't want to take on the responsibility of family medicine. It's very difficult. So we're looking forward to the collaborative care clinic opening up downtown, and the one in the hospital, Ocean View, is continuing to grow. Again, so when I said four site visits don't necessarily mean that the doctors are going to come here, and it's like we had 4 site visits last weekend. So there's just been an incredible change to the number of people who are interested in coming to the area. Our hospital has a great reputation. In fact, one of the things that will be happening is that we are running out of space in the hospital for doctors' offices. So that's something that's going to be coming forward, because they're going to be looking for some space. So we are continuing to have site visits from doctors. One area still is an issue is emergency medicine as well, but we do have some more visits coming up. And our community navigators working really hard in terms of retention and getting people together, getting doctors, partners to meet other partners, attending activities that are going on in the community. And so, the best thing is to, once you get someone established in Yarmouth and they like it and they make their friends and they're involved in all these activities, then they want to stay. And that's exactly what that role entails. And so there's lots of good things that have been happening. So we're extremely fortunate when we look at the rest of the province and what's happening in Yarmouth. It's very, very positive.
Thank you. Any more verbal reports? Ad hoc? Any sign-ups for public comments? Nope. In-camera recommendations. There was 2 recommendations. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, I'll move that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth appoint Karen Gadet for an additional 2-year term to the Planning Advisory Committee.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And the second recommendation from in-cameras in regards to rescinding the May 9th, 2023 decision of appointing John Sullivan and Glenn Muse as building officials. Moved by Councillor Nick Hilton. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniel Allen. Discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. That is the end of our council's agenda. I so move. The meeting is closed.